the pale blue dot.
What is up, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of the MindMate podcast. If any of you were actually wondering why I called it the MindMate podcast, it's a very deep and spiritual, it's really not. My good friend Bill from Adventure Fit and I were talking one day, and we were talking over the computer, we were slacking, and we started rolling ideas out, and I was like, mate, MindMate, all these sorts of things, and when I put MindMate, he was like, yeah, that's not too bad. And I was like, yeah, that's not too bad either. And the reason we liked it, well, the reason I liked it, he didn't really have much to do with it after that, but the reason I liked it is because it works twofold. A, if you're going through something, it's just your mind mate. But at the same time, your mind mate. It's your mind mate. So hopefully that clears things up. I don't even know if it cleared things up for me. Guys, this week's episode is with Chris Desmond, and you may know the legend, the Kiwi legend, from a little podcast he produces and hosts, which is called Uncomfortable is Okay. And I had the pleasure of being on his show last year. I had him on my show through middle 2018, which is within the top first 5 podcasts. I think it's in the top 5. No, sorry, it's not in the top 5. Could be, who knows, but it's one of the first 5 podcasts on MindMate podcast. And we thought we'd hit each other up again and have a little bit of a conversation about what we'd been up to. I spoke to him about the book that I'm writing at the moment and kind of the direction that this show's heading. And he spoke to me about the workshops he's been doing in the corporate areas as well, and just pushing people to get a little bit uncomfortable in this day and age, which is fantastic. And I was having a conversation with my lovely partner, and we're doing a bit of a health kick at the moment. So we're waking up every morning and we're doing our training, and we're fasting for, is it 16 hours, Siobhan? Yep. 16 hours, yep. 16 hours, and we've essentially cut out dairy, sugar, and alcohol. And it's not normal to have tuna for breakfast, but I had tuna. I just opened the can of tuna this morning, and it was like the most incredible tuna I've ever eaten in my whole life. Now, I eat a lot of tuna, so I know what good tuna is like. And I can't tell you for sure if it was just objectively good tuna, or if the fasting and the health kick had something to do with it too, which I think the latter is probably more pertinent. And what that kind of told me was, away from all of the, lifestyle addictions that we're kind of set up to indulge in, it's very customary to have red wine at night. And these are not bad things, but, we have our red wine and chocolate at night. We have a lot of coffee. We have a lot of comfortable delights. We don't often fast. But when you do and you take yourself away from that, having something like tuna was just, for me personally, unbelievable. There's actually a story in the Bible, and obviously I'm not a Christian myself, but I have been reading over some of these biblical passages for analysis. And just before Jesus went out and started preaching to the world, he underwent 3 temptations by the devil in the desert. And one of those temptations was the temptation of satisfaction. And he was tempted to eat bread. He hadn't eaten bread in a very long time, but he said something along the lines of, and this is spiritual jargon, religious jargon, so if you're not really into it, it doesn't really matter, but there's a good little message behind it. He said, it is written that mankind will not be tempted, or something like this, will not live through bread alone, but by the Spirit. Which essentially means is that we don't need all these things to satisfy our comforts all the time. And sometimes what we can learn through that suffering by eradicating ourselves from the comfort is perhaps, if you'd like to call it, spiritual development, or even just a bit of more of a learning about what you're capable of. So I thought that was really interesting. I didn't know that tuna would relate me to the Bible, but it did. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And you can head to my YouTube channel for some snippets of basically just me talking with my hair out, and it looks ridiculous. Speak to you after the show. Bye.
From this distant vantage point, the Earth might not seem of any particular interest. But for us, preserve, cherish, the only home we've ever known. The pale blue dot.
Mate, how are ya?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Here he is. Long time no see.
Happy New Year.
I
Yeah.
know.
Good to see you.
I know. When was the last time we chatted? It would have been a while back now.
Yeah, it would have been.
4 or 5 months.
I don't know if it was 6 months.
Yeah.
Oh, it was before you went to Bali.
Oh, yep. Good point. Yep. Yeah, Jesus, there you go. Well, mate, long time now. I was about to say classic joke about the kids, but you've actually had a kid.
Yeah. Lots of shit has gone down, eh?
Love it.
Yeah. And you're a published author now. Yeah, man.
I know, mate. Nah, look, I've had no emails, but yeah, no, it's good. It's good for that to be out now. I'm pumped about it, man. It's funny writing a book. Like you write the first, second draft, and you're like, okay, this is awesome, and then 10 edits later, you just like, I just fucking can't wait to get this out there. Like, I'm just sick of it now. I'm sick of the words.
Yeah. Who did you get to help you edit it?
Mate, it was pretty much all in the family. I had a couple of friends who were writers as well, but essentially it was myself a good 3 or 4 times. Dad's an author, an editor. That's his main profession anyway. So it kind of helped there, and he had a read through a couple of times. Mum did as well. She offered a 2 cents, which was cool. And I guess the good thing about the book was it was just essentially my experiences. So the best editors would have been those from the family. So anyone outside was just kind of, polishing off the grammar. But yeah, no, mate, it was a great little endeavor. I was it was good because I used to write a lot as a kid, and writing that book again just kind of invigorated me to write, and onto the second and third now. So should be good.
So you've got two more lined up.
Well, I've got three more lined up. The main one I'm writing now is called The Seeker's Path, which is essentially just another kind of story for me. It was trying to use that cliche, find myself sort of thing. There was just a lot of sort of existential questions that I was still struggling with, that I wanted to study, research, and try to kind of put all that research in line with where I was and who I was, and what made sense to me and what didn't make sense to me. Another aspect of that was a dream diary that I will release as an ebook, because it was really interesting to research dreams and interpret dreams. They can give you some amazing insights into your subconscious mind, and had some pretty scary weeks there, to be quite honest with you. I got really far deep into it, and I reckon I sent myself crazy for a month or two there. It was good fun. And one of a series of dreams sparked the incentive to write my fourth book, which is a bit of a fiction book. So I'm looking forward to polishing off the ebook, releasing this second book called The Seeker's Path, which is, I think it's quite valuable. It's not like my first book. The first book's just my story with some ideas and insights, but this second book is, maybe 5-10% anecdote and 80-90%, if that doesn't make any sense, does it? 90 to 95% sort of, how good's my maths? No wonder I'm a writer.
It's up there, right?
Yeah,
It's up there, bro.
something around that, yeah. Offering value and ideas about comparative religion, spiritual aspects of mythology, the path of the individual, what we're desiring, uncomfortable concepts, things like that. So, yeah, looking forward to getting that one out. Hopefully that one will be out towards the end of this year.
Awesome, man. That sounds very interesting. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
You're obviously enjoying the writing process too.
it's good, mate. It gets you out of bed. It's a long haul, and but it's good. It's that postponed gratification idea, which is obviously the neuroscience, I guess, behind what you're interested in. It's we want to try to move ourselves away from that instant gratification, and the more you fight for a slog that's meaningful in its pursuits and worthwhile, intrinsic to who you are as an individual, it's going to make more sense, and it's going to feel like you're actually making use of your time that you do have here, as opposed to chucking up a photo, which of something that we all do, and hopefully that we get 50,000 likes, and if we don't, then we'll take it back down.
Have you taken photos back down before?
No, I've never done that. I've never done that. But I did hear a story when we were living in Bali. I heard a story about this bloke he runs sort of lifestyle retreats with his missus, and one of the ladies that came on the retreat with him was that sort of individual. She would upload a photo, and if it hadn't had 200 likes within the hour, she'd have to take it down. Which is to do you know what's interesting, mate? Like, I thought that was the extreme of the social media influencer lifestyle, but that's kind of somewhere in between. So there are extremes to all sides of the spectrum, and people say that social media isn't as bad as people think it is, but there also are extremes that seem to probably change your opinion on that one as well, because it's such a productive tool, but you got to be responsible with it.
Oh, definitely. And I think, like, I've made some amazing relationships over social media. Like,
You and
when
I,
we
mate,
first
we've
connected
never
over
even met.
social media, um, I did a podcast, or I've got one coming out in a week or two with a dude that I classify as my mate
Yeah,
that I've only ever met on the internet. So
exactly.
it's like it's a force for good. But I've been listening to a bit of Gary Vee lately, just in regards to kind of content and thinking about that. And I mean, his thing is that social media, it exposes us, and it
Mm,
kind of brings to the fore the characteristics that we have
mm,
inherently. And if there's something there that it is exposing us towards, then hey, maybe that's a great way to identify this is something that I need to be working on myself. That have got some insecurity around people liking me. If yeah, some of my posts gets like 7 likes.
mate, seven
Maybe
people out there like
maybe I
it.
need to maybe I need to figure out something a different way to say that message.
Yeah, that's right. Get the shirt out, or put a bit of a filter on, or you know, whatever you can.
Mm,
It's funny. I
yeah,
really agree with that too. I think it comes down to that responsibility idea as well, because the world is becoming far less private, and you best be ready to. People are going to see all aspects of your life. The more you want to grow, and the more you want to sell yourself as a bit of a personal brand, as a business entity as well. So, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And Freud said something like, most people don't want to be free because they fear the responsibility that comes with freedom, or something like that. It was about 120 years ago, but I still believe that to be very true. We often imprison ourselves behind these sort of mind walls, because we don't know what's out there in the unknown. And there's a lot of responsibility that comes with living in the unknown. Even from just a very obvious example, if you chuck yourself out there in the forest, and you've got nothing but a knife, you best be ready to just constantly be thinking about the future, constantly be thinking about survival. That's a lot of responsibility in this day and age. The most responsibility I had this morning was making sure that the Wi-Fi connection was pretty spot on. So that's the differences between the known and the unknown.
definitely. We should have a chat with Kai Furno about that one, eh?
Oh yeah, yeah, she's legendary.
Yeah, she's great value, eh?
Mm,
Yeah, no, it's interesting, eh? And I think like putting yourself in situations like that as well, and it doesn't have to be quite to that extreme, the naked and afraid sort of
yeah.
kind of situation, but like that consistent challenge, and hopefully it's a reasonably strategic challenge that
Mm,
you take on, and kind of work towards, that is uncomfortable, and kind of generates those survival skills in yourself as well. It's super important
mm.
to be engaged in life, and be living life in a fulfilling manner.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Did you find any of that with obviously being a father now? I'm sure you did. Reading up on all the books and researching how what to do when you are a father, but when you have one, it's just completely like you just could not be. I don't know, more or less unprepared. I'm interested.
Mm. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, eh? Becoming a dad, and like prior to becoming a dad, there's a reasonable amount of fear that goes on. Like, am I going to be a good dad? Am I going to be able to
I know.
Like I scar the poor boy.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Don't come in.
there's a like there's a bit of ruminating I think that goes on around that, and like from the people that I've talked to, I think especially the dads, I think that's kind of a natural response.
Of course.
Um, for mothers, I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, they have different hormonal responses that are going on to to what we do.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's that fear and there's that uncertainty beforehand, and then they show up, and like one day you're not a dad, and then
Mm.
the next day you are a dad, and like it's super hard and it's super challenging in terms of kind of figuring stuff out. But at least for me, it feels amazingly natural.
Mm.
It feels like this is one of the things that I'm supposed to be doing with my life. That I'm supposed to be looking after this little human and kind of helping to grow him into a man. And
Yeah,
like there's a lot of stuff that I need to learn along the way with it, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that he's going to teach me
of
along
course.
the way with it as well. But I think that it's amazing kind of the biology that kicks in with it. And I was talking to my wife about it as well because he's not the greatest sleeper
Oh
out
yeah.
there.
Yeah. Is this your
So
wife?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, there's a bit of sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
My wife has it far worse than I do because I've got worthless nipples. Um, so I don't have to get up nearly as often.
Yeah. I don't know if they're that bad, mate.
They're alright, eh?
Yeah.
It's lucky that we're on audio, eh?
Yeah, that's right.
But in terms of like how cute babies are,
Mm.
we're just talking about, oh man, it's so lucky that they are cute because otherwise you could just get so pissed off with them as well.
Yeah.
And I think I'm biased in this. I think our baby is reasonably cute, but every parent says that. I think,
Yeah.
even if their baby is a bit of a minger.
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
so biologically, I think you're wired to think, oh yeah, this baby is cute. It's a good looking baby. I wanna look after it.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I'd be happy if you know, even when I have a kid, it's a strong 6. At least that way it's above average.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what
Oh,
what sort of stuff you been doing with the business? Because last time we spoke, you were going to get into a bit of coaching and workshops and things like that. I'm pretty sure that sort of stuff's come to fruition now, hasn't it?
yeah. So
Sweet.
I'm running a workshop actually in about 2 weeks' time.
Okay.
I ran one at the end of last year, and it was good. It was a massive learning experience for me, but like it was such a fun and a valuable tool, and I think the guys that were there got a lot out of it, and
Great.
at least the feedback was really good.
Mm.
Maybe they were too uncomfortable to give me bad feedback.
Yeah. Good point. It was good.
But, yeah, we liked it.
Yeah.
6 out of 10.
6.
Um,
Your baby's good looking too.
yeah. But there was, yeah, really, really fun. Just trying to figure out the best way to kind of deliver it at the moment. If this kind of live workshop sort of thing is the best approach, just
Mm.
to try and drag individuals into it, or um, thinking about, hey, how could I deliver something like this in a corporate environment as well,
Yep.
where it's a little bit less legwork in
Mm.
terms of you deal with one person, then you can deliver to a whole lot rather than trying to deal with a whole lot and then get them all together on a date.
Yes.
But yeah, started doing a little bit of coaching with some people as well, and at the moment that kind of looks like just like a 4 week block of getting people started and getting them over the hump of that uncomfortable and running with a strategic challenge that they want
Mm.
to take on.
Mm.
So often, a couple of the people that have come to see me have already had things they're like, cool, I want to work on this, but I'm really struggling. I'm finding it really difficult.
Yeah.
And then we sort of work through the process there. A couple of other people have come to me and they're a little bit
Yep.
in regards to, okay, I know I want to do something, but I'm not quite sure what it is. So
Right.
a lot of the initial stuff is kind of problem solving around what is it that you actually want to do,
Mm.
and like it doesn't have to be this kind of massive purpose, passion kind of statement or project that people get so hung up on. That before that, even like before you even get to that, comes curiosity,
Yeah.
and like you, yeah, I think people kind of wait for like purpose and passion to sort of drop in their lap,
Mm.
but actually it's a process that you go through, and it's something that you search out and that you look for, and you try a bunch of shit, and most of it you don't like,
Mm-hmm.
so you stop doing it, and then
Absolutely.
you go and do something else, and so yeah, with the people that I work with, it's kind of been that strategic direction of, hey, this kind of looks interesting, or
Yep.
I think I want to go over here. How do I get the ball rolling? How do I kind of get over that hump with it? And it's been good. Like the 4 week block is a nice one to just sort of push the boat off. And
Definitely.
some people at the end of it have been like, cool, I'm good. I can keep going by myself. And other people are like, it'd be valuable to have a catch up sort of on a monthly or 6 weekly basis and just sort of problem solve, do some thinking around things. So it's been interesting, and
Mm.
like it's quite similar to my role as a physiotherapist as well. In that, hey, someone comes in with a problem, we sit down, we figure out what the problem
Mm.
is, we figure out where they want to go,
Mm.
and then we get them there.
That's exactly right.
And it's the same thing, but less anatomical.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Now you touched on a really good point before about people wanting to try to find this thing to do in life that is them, and this is essentially the first third, more or less second third of the book that I'm writing now, it deals with in its entirety. So it's the idea of a meaningful pursuit in life, as opposed to a happy pursuit in life. But one of the things I found, because I wanted to write this book in a way that coincided with what I was actually dealing with in life, and I wanted to take the reader on a journey um, of the awareness of an existential crisis, the descent into the bubbling of where this crisis manifests itself in the darkness of the mind, and then how to eventually come through that and ascend into this place of a bit more knowing and a bit more self-understanding, at least so that you have the tools to be able to continue in life, so that such a crisis doesn't occur again. Because I, to some degree, when I came out of my bout of mental health issues, I lost an identity. So my ego detached itself from wanting to play in the AFL. All of these things were bubbling up from below the surface, and I didn't know what they were. And that was the spark of the mental health issues, and all those sorts of things were arising that I'd never really given time for, because I was so obsessed with an idea that I had in my head from a very young age. And I really believe in role models and heroes, and I believe in having a goal, but it is important to know whether or not that goal is disingenuous or not, and if it is authentic towards who you are as a person. And you're never going to know for sure. You're never going to find a single goal that's like, this is what I was put on the earth to do, But more or less, the more you spend time with yourself and get to know yourself, the more the goals that you write down for yourself become more intrinsically aligned. So it's exactly like what you said before. You don't find a thing and then that's what it is. You scout out, you reach out, you look, and eventually there's this kind of like path that's, far less imbalanced than it once was previously. And hopefully by old age you've had a good life of trying lots of things and having your ups and your downs. But essentially that was that was me, and I came out of it. And then I just attached myself to another goal of wanting to change the world in terms of anxiety, with mental health. And there was so much ego in that, just as there was in terms of wanting to make the AFL. And ego is so important, it's very important, but it was this same thing of, once I've changed the world with anxiety, then I'll be okay. Very similar to, once I make the AFL, then I'll have all the money and the girls, yada, yada, yada. So I moved away from the MindMate completely. It's just called the podcast now. And then I just kind of sat in this existential slump. And, my partner and I, who I love to bits, we moved to Bali, and, completely, we sold all of our things, and, I just had this new life ready to go. And I couldn't help but feel like, if I wasn't prepared to take the journey on, the only other way I describe it was like a bit of a depression quite feeling, because I just felt really, really lost. And then I started to read more, and writing has become a way for me to reflect and learn. And that's essentially what the book is. It's taking the reader through a journey like that. And my overall message from it, which I learned myself, which was, don't shy away from exactly what you're saying. Don't shy away from the uncomfort. And that can get extremely uncomfortable. Don't shy away from, even to the core, the shit that's biting away at your soul. If you classify yourself as someone that does have depression, and there are many different examples of what depression is to people. So this is a general cue, and I won't say that this is the only way to do it, because, as we all know, different sort of methods work for different people. But if there is something in you that's eating away at you, listen to it, because it could be trying to tell you something. And there is a really interesting kind of conjunction that occurs between the unconscious and the conscious mind, and the way those kind of intertwine with each other. I really believe that the unconscious mind, everything that we're scared of, is actually on your side, and you can listen to it through the interpretation of dreams. You can listen to it by what your emotions are telling you. You can listen to it as you detach yourself from everything that's going on inside you, and write it out as though you're having a conversation with it. And you come out on the other side, and you really start to learn a lot about yourself. So that's essentially what the book was about. But it was that idea, that what you said about before, which was, don't wait for life to give you its answers. You actually have to prove to life what your answers are. And that's something that Viktor Frankl said. He said, people often look to life and go, what is the meaning of life? But you should kind of look at life and you should sit down life and be like, hey, this is what the meaning is going to be for me, because you're on this earth for a reason. So you can do that.
Yeah, I like that stream of consciousness there, Tommy. Yeah, I think one of the really important things that you mentioned there is time.
Yep.
As well, and it's actually kind of taking the time and making it a priority for yourself to sit down and review the stuff and have a look at your goals and say, actually, why do I want to do this?
Yeah.
Is this something that is like really is going to give me a lot of value intrinsically, like changing the world in regards to anxiety is it's a cool goal. It's a massive.
It's not bad.
But yeah, it's
maybe the world doesn't need to be changed.
AFL, anxiety.
Exactly. Anxiety Football League, actually.
Yeah. But yeah, like taking the time to look and actually try and understand that for yourself and figure out, no, actually the motivations behind this probably aren't quite right for me. And it's really easy not to spend that time looking at that stuff, especially because it's quite uncomfortable to get started and to
it is.
jump into it as well.
Mm.
And like, I was having a conversation with someone today. Actually, is that the world that we live in and the environment that we kind of set ourselves up in, for the most part, is an environment that doesn't really allow us a heap of time to spend time with ourselves. And we were having a conversation around boredom, and no one is bored anymore.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
You start to get bored, or you start to feel uncomfortable for 5 seconds. Boom, pull out the phone. You're on social media, which again is a great tool, but actually understand yourself, I think it's a massively underrated kind of skill to develop. And like it was, I don't know if we talked about this much last time that you were on my podcast or last time I was on yours, but
Yeah.
I mean that's kind of one of the things that I didn't do
Right.
when I was younger. That and that's kind of that's one of the things that really got me into the rut that I was in. I
Yes.
think in my
Yes, I remember.
early to mid
Yes.
20s is that how I was trying to live my life the way that I thought society expected
Mm.
me to. I was this insecure young dude that was seeking validation in all of these kind of external things.
Mm.
And I didn't really take time to sit with myself and look at the motivations behind that or start to question those assumptions.
Yep.
And the funny thing is that I have a lot less time now, but I spend more time doing it
Yes.
and asking myself those hard questions. But like to get into that mindset and to start to kind of explore that stuff myself and to ask myself those hard questions and figure out that stuff was ridiculously uncomfortable
Yep.
initially. Like I knew something wasn't right, that I was sitting there, I was unhappy, I was unhealthy, I was unfulfilled, and I had this kind of that the subconscious mind giving me this sense of discomfort, saying,
Mm.
"Hey, something's not right. There's something you need to change something, or the way that you're living isn't. It doesn't kind of connect with who you want to be as a person." But
Mm.
trying to go about and do that from a practical sense of is really hard, because when you
Yep.
start asking yourself those questions, you start to get some pretty gnarly answers coming back at you.
It's true.
And like the way that I look back on it now and the way that I think of it now um, is kind of like a physical training. Like
Yep.
if you're going down and you're training, then you're going to be pretty shit when you start out, because you've just been sitting on the couch and you haven't been doing much stuff. So you go in there and you do a little bit of stuff, and then you'll need to go away and you'll need to go and have a rest for a while.
Mm.
And then if you overtrain, then you're going to wipe yourself out for a week
Mm.
where you're not going to be able to straighten your arms out.
Yeah.
So you can't train anymore. And then when you come back in, you're a bit tentative. You go a little bit slower, or you've gone backwards a little bit. And like those initial phases of spending time with myself and kind of starting to ask myself some harder questions was a little bit like that. Is that like getting into the gym when you start off, or starting out running, or learning a new skill.
Mm.
And I think kind of I'm thankful in a way that like I was a kid that grew up in New Zealand in the 80s, in semi-rural New Zealand, so I was always outside and I
Mm.
played a lot of sport, and like I was good at training.
Yep.
Like
Exactly.
I
Yep.
loved training.
Mm.
Like it's great. Some people just like competing, but I actually like going and training. Like
Mm.
when I was younger, me and the neighbour would play test match cricket in the
Yeah.
backyard for like 10 days in a row.
Yeah.
I was always Pakistan for some reason. I think it was hockey. I love hockey.
Oh, that's a lot funnier than I think you intended it to be. That's gold.
Yeah, you go down and play in the nets for like 3 or 4 hours, and you just bowl the ball.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, I think that kind of love of training actually stood me in quite good stead to keep coming back
Mm.
and asking myself those questions.
Mm.
And like I still ask myself some of them now,
Oh yeah.
and you don't like the answers that come up, and some of them are a bit uncomfortable, and some of
Mm.
them are a bit frustrating because you can't figure out the answer.
God.
But
Exactly.
it's the habit, and it's the continually coming back to it that kind of over the course of a month or 6 months or a year just helps you evolve as a person.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. And I think something that I've really tried to make the habit of remembering is that we're not made to have all the answers whilst we're alive, and every time you think that, because we're set up to problem solve, and that's how we've evolved, and there's so much of the brain's wiring is set up so that we can solve problems and figure things out. And that's why we've become the most dominant species, So we have this beautiful problem-solving mechanism within us, and then we have this sort of almost like a spiritual existential crisis of wanting to know all the answers that we can't possibly know whilst we're here. So we always have this fighting internal battle within ourselves to want to figure out all these answers that we can't possibly know, but at the same time accept that, and then paradoxically try to figure all those ones out again. And it's like this, Alan Watts called it the double mind, where we're fighting to get to one place, but by getting to one place, we're excluding that we only know that place in compensatory terms because of its opposite other. And the more we try to go to one place, the more we neglect this other place. So if you always want to be happy, you're basically just saying that you're sad now. But if you just said that you weren't sad now, you'd be happy right now. But there's always this really bizarre paradox going on all the time. And if you can take yourself out of that, it's just like, oh, wow, I'm essentially playing tug of war with my two hands here, and I don't even need to be doing that. I'm just living. I'm just being right now, Another example is we live in a pleasure-seeking world, necessarily. It's that idea that we, like you said before, we don't have the chance to be bored anymore. That's not to say that we can't be bored anymore, because you can take on that incentive and that responsibility yourself and lock yourself in a room if you absolutely need to. There's something biting at your core. But it is harder and harder to spend time with yourself in this day and age. More often than not, as young men, living 1,000 years ago, we'd be told that we just have to go on a bloody pilgrimage, and we just have to learn. And if we die, we die. But if we live, we can come back with some amazing stories and heroic tales, But this day and age, like you said, you can get a little bit of a dopamine bump by whipping your phone out straight away. But we only know what pleasure feels like because we know what pain feels like. If we didn't know what pain felt like, we'd have no understanding of pleasure in and of itself. So you can look at that in every single facet of life with the labels that we put on things. We only know something in relation to its other. So if we stop trying to fight for happiness all the time, we're probably going to stop being sad. And then we can live in this beautiful sort of content space where everything is meaningful, but nothing is meaningful at the same time. But it doesn't matter because everything is. It's this union of opposites idea. It's really interesting.
It's heavy, man. It's heavy.
It is quite heavy.
when you think about that, it's sometimes it seems like a very black or white thinking. That you're either sad or you're happy. That it is, but the way that I think about it anyway is it's a continuum, and you move back and forth along that continuum. And I think one of the best ways to think about it would be mental health. That if you're not mentally unwell, are you actually mentally healthy?
Yeah, that's right.
Or are you just not, health isn't the absence of disease.
Yeah.
That I think I like that continuum idea, but I think it couples quite well with the stuff that you're talking about there, that these things kind of sit at either end of a continuum, and we're so caught up in trying to get to one end of the continuum.
Yep.
That this is kind of peak happiness, or this is peak whatever it is that you're working on, and that you understand, there's the opposite there, but you don't already see that. I'm 75% of the way along that continuum already. That, but because I'm only looking towards that happiness and that extra 25% that I don't have, I don't see where I'm sitting at the moment, and I don't see what it is, and I'm not grateful, and I'm not enjoying or kind of being present in myself as I am at the current time, because it's always that comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if we could just, I don't really have the answer, I don't know, because I think even the idea of desiring, we can move from pursuing happiness to pursuing meaning, but the opposite of, well, if you're in a state of wanting to pursue something, you're only always going to be pursuing it. You'll never arrive there, So there's always this opposite idea that's kind of flickering in the back of the mind, where it's like, okay, now I need to find something meaningful. But is anything going to be truly meaningful to you if you're always in the pursuit of it? Because you'll never know. You'll be trying an infinite amount of things without ever really staying on one line to find it anyway. So there's no real one answer to live life, But I think it's just coming down to passion project. Have a passion project. Eat well, sleep well, spend some time with yourself, and have a good couple of mates. It's a funny one.
Is pursuit the meaning? Is pursuit the happiness, though? Because as humans, we love pursuing things, as you say, and we love problem solving things, and like you pursue something, and sometimes you get it, and sometimes you don't. But the actual act of the pursuit and the doing and the learning as you go, I think is it's the really valuable thing in figuring out how we can enjoy ourselves, or how we can be happy, in parentheses, in that pursuit. Because if all we're looking for is that kind of hit at the end of it, and that rush of dopamine when we achieve something, it's really fleeting. And to be honest, you probably don't want heaps of dopamine rushing through your body all the time as well. It'll mess you up.
Yeah.
But that's the 1%, that the 99% of life is the pursuit.
Yeah, it's struggle, isn't it?
Is that you're after. Yeah. And you hit these achievements or something along the way, but then if it's as you were saying at the start, I'll be happy when you achieve this. And when you achieve it, then you just sit at the same level.
Yeah.
And if you just sit at the same level as a human being, then you're actually sliding backwards.
Absolutely.
So it's becoming aware of the next thing that you want to pursue, and kind of to that point. And I think, like, my thought processes, sometimes I don't know what I'm going to say until I've actually said it. So
Yeah.
this is one of those times. But
That's me in life.
yeah, when you think about that, when you think about the pursuit and about purpose as well, is that sometimes you can pick a purpose, and I don't know that you need to have one overarching purpose for your entire life. Hey, maybe this is my purpose for this couple of years, or this 6 months, or this decade.
Yeah.
And then actually I work on it, and I do this stuff, and then actually things change. Like I evolve as a person. My environment evolves as well. And like, if you look at when we were born, what the world was like then compared to what it's like now. And like, if I think forward in 15 years time or 20 years time, when my son is a young man as well, it's like, what the hell is the world going to look like then? And
Crazy.
And who am I going to be at that point in time? That I would hope that my purpose is slightly different to what it is now.
Absolutely.
I was having a conversation with a dude, and he quoted Cassius Clay to me.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, and he was like, I really pity the man who is the same at 50 years old as he was at 20 years old, because he just wasted the last 30 years of his life.
I love that. So spot on. Mate, I've actually got to go. I've got to feed some farm animals. Yeah.
What the hell are you doing in France?
Yeah, so we're living here. We're living here on a farm for about 2.5, 3 months, and we flew to Scotland, and then we stayed in Ireland for a bit as well, just doing a bit of the travel thing to catch up with Siobhan's family and some friends there, and we found a house sit, and we're just living about 3.5 hours south of Paris, and it's beautiful here, mate. It's really lovely. 30 acres of land, heaps of sheep, heaps of horses. Spending a lot of time trying to figure out what we want to do for the next year. So yeah, it's good. It's really, we wake up in the morning, do a bit of exercise, then we get to meditate and do some content and stuff. It's good fun.
Awesome, bro.
Yeah,
That sounds great, actually.
it is. It's good. It is good. It's bloody cold, but it's meaningful.
It is. Yeah, it's the pursuit at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right, team. I really hope you enjoyed that one. Like I say after every show, if you did really enjoy it, please let me know. And you can hit me up on all the social medias. I will love to respond to you because I'm interested to see who you are. And you now listening to this show, I want to know who you are. So, just do a little Simpsons thing and say that you're Lisa S or L Simpson, and I'll reach out to you. Don't know where I'm going with this. Guys, I'm well and truly into writing my second book, and I'm really, really excited about it. But if you haven't read my first book, Yes, I'm Fine, Just Tired, it's about 15 or 20 bucks, something like that. And it was a very in-depth recount of a really important experience in my life. And if you do like this show and you do like what we're interested in and what we're growing, I do urge you to have a read of it because there's a bit of a treasure in there. There's a single spelling mistake, I believe, and you can find that and let me know because I actually don't know where that is. But B, you can reach out and let me know what you thought of it, and if you've had experiences that were similar to that one. It doesn't have to be a mental health issue or crisis. It can be anything in life that you learnt something through a process of change, and I'd be really interested to see kind of what that was like for you, because if it's something you're still dealing with or something that you're interested in, maybe we can talk about it on the show. So you can head to Amazon and you can type in my name and Yes, I'm Fine, Just Tired, and it will come up and it will be hopefully in your home within the week. That would be awesome. Until next week, guys, goodbye for now.